The explosion tore through the diplomatic wing just as the ceremony began. Commander Kyle Brennan threw himself over Princess Zalara, shielding her body with his own as metal shrieked and glass shattered across the grand hall. The Corthan delegation had promised peace. They'd lied. Zalara's silver skin shimmered beneath him, her 3 eyes wide with terror. 6 months married, and she still didn't know. Nobody did. "Stay down," Kyle growled, scanning the chaos. 20 armed Corthan soldiers poured through the breach, plasma rifles blazing. The royal guards dropped like stones, their ceremonial armor useless against military-grade weapons. This was an execution, not an attack. "They're here for me," Zalara whispered, her voice musical even in fear. "My father's enemies. They'll kill everyone." Kyle's jaw tightened. The nearest Corthan was 15 meters away, cutting down fleeing diplomats. Behind them, more soldiers secured the exits. Coordinated, deadly. He'd promised himself he'd never use it again. Promised her he was just a simple liaison officer, a human diplomat who fell in love with an alien princess. Nothing special. That promise was about to break. "Close your eyes," Kyle said. "What?" "Trust me. Close them. Now." Zalara obeyed, her slender fingers gripping his uniform. The Corthan squad leader spotted them, raising his weapon. 3 seconds until fire. Kyle stood. The air around him began to vibrate, not loudly, not visibly, but every Corthan in the room suddenly froze, their predatory instincts screaming danger.
"You made a mistake coming here," Kyle said quietly.
The squad leader laughed. "1 human against 20 warriors? Your species is soft, weak." "Yeah," Kyle said. "We get that a lot." Then he moved. Not fast. Instantly. One moment he stood protecting Zalara. The next he was behind the squad leader, the alien's rifle crushed to powder in his hand. The Corthan's laugh died as Kyle's grip found his throat. "Tell your team to stand down," Kyle said, his voice utterly calm, "or I demonstrate why humanity doesn't need weapons." The squad leader tried to activate his armor's defense field. Kyle's other hand touched the power core. It melted. Zalara's eyes opened, despite his warning. She saw her husband, the quiet officer who wrote her poetry and held her gently, now standing in the center of 20 armed killers. Saw the fear in their eyes. Saw the purple energy beginning to radiate from his skin like captured lightning. "I said," Kyle repeated, his voice echoing with something that wasn't quite sound, "stand down." The Corthan soldiers raised their weapons. Big mistake. Kyle's hand shot forward. Empty air became solid force. The first 3 Corthan soldiers flew backward like they'd been hit by a freight train, crashing through the marble colonnade. Their armor crumpled like paper. The remaining 17 opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts filled the space where Kyle stood, where he had stood. He was already gone, moving between the beams with impossible precision. Each step left footprints glowing with residual energy in the polished floor. He reached the nearest soldier and touched his chest plate. The armor didn't break. It simply ceased to exist. Molecules scattered into component atoms. The Corthan inside stumbled backward, unharmed but completely exposed. "I don't want to kill you," Kyle said, his voice carrying over the weapon's fire, "but I will protect her." 4 more soldiers charged him at once. Kyle didn't fight them. He pushed, and they slid across the floor as if gravity had rotated 90 degrees, slamming into the far wall hard enough to crack stone. Zalara watched from behind the overturned table, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Her husband, the man who couldn't even open a Vrelnian food container without her help, was dismantling an elite strike team with his bare hands. The squad leader barked orders in Corthan battle cant. The soldiers formed a firing line, weapons set to maximum dispersal. They fired together. The plasma wave was wide enough to engulf half the room. Kyle raised both hands. The plasma stopped. Just stopped, hanging in the air like a frozen waterfall of superheated gas. Then it reversed, flowing back toward the soldiers in a controlled stream that Kyle guided with minute gestures. He didn't send it at them. He sent it up through the breach in the ceiling, harmlessly into the sky. "Your turn's over," Kyle said. He stomped once. The shock wave radiated outward in a perfect circle, knocking every remaining Korthan flat on their backs. Their weapons skittered away across the floor. Before they could rise, Kyle was moving again, too fast to track, disabling armor systems with precise touches. 10 seconds. That's all it took to neutralize 17 soldiers. The squad leader struggled to his knees, reaching for a backup weapon. Kyle appeared in front of him, kneeling to eye level. "Who sent you?" Kyle asked. "We do not fear you, human. I didn't ask if you were afraid. I asked who sent you." The Korthan spat something caustic that sizzled on the floor. Kyle didn't flinch. He placed one finger against the alien's forehead. "I can read neural patterns," Kyle said quietly. "Every thought in your head becomes mine if I push just a little, but I'd rather not. It hurts you a lot. So I'll ask one more time. Who sent you?" The squad leader's eyes widened. Whatever he saw in Kyle's face made him believe. "Duke Zarthon," he gasped, "Zalara's uncle. He wants the throne. We were paid to make it look like a human betrayal. Start a war!" Kyle nodded slowly. He stood, releasing the soldier. Around them, the room was a disaster. Smoke drifted through the ruined ceiling. Bodies lay everywhere, most unconscious, some groaning. And Zalara was staring at him with all three eyes, her expression unreadable. "Kyle!" Her voice was barely a whisper. He turned to face her, and the purple energy faded from his skin. Suddenly he was just a man again, a tired man who'd broken a promise. "I can explain," he started. "You're one of them," Zalara said, rising on shaking legs. "The rumors, the ghost stories the other species tell, humans with power that defies physics, I thought they were myths. They are myths. Mostly." Kyle took a step toward her. She took a step back. That hurt more than any weapon. "Zalara, please, how many humans can do this?" "I don't know. Not many. We're born random. 1 in a million, maybe. And you never told me. I wanted to be normal for you, just a man who loved you. Not a weapon. Not a tool." Zolara looked at the devastation around them, at the soldiers who'd tried to kill her, now helpless and defeated, at her husband, who had just rewritten her understanding of reality. "My uncle will send more," she said finally. "Let him." "Kyle, you don't understand. He has armies, fleets, thousands of soldiers." Kyle met her gaze steadily. The fear was gone from her eyes now, replaced by something else, something that might have been wonder. "Then I guess," he said softly, "they're going to need a lot more soldiers." The Royal Medical Team arrived within minutes, but Solara sent them away. She sat alone with Kyle in the ruins of the diplomatic hall, guards posted at every entrance, and demanded answers. "Start from the beginning," she said. Her voice was steady now, controlled. "Royal training taking over. No more lies." Kyle sat across from her, hands folded. The purple glow was gone completely, but she could still see the power in him now. How had she missed it before? "I was 12 when it manifested," he said. "Broke my arm falling off my bike. The bone set itself in seconds. After that, things escalated. Strength, speed, energy manipulation. The government found me fast. They made you a soldier. They tried. trained me for 8 years in a black site facility, wanted to create a superhuman strike force. Kyle's expression darkened. But powers like mine don't follow orders well. We think too fast, process too much. 3 of us went rogue during a mission. The program shut down. Zalara's middle eye narrowed. You were a fugitive. For a while, then I made a deal. Permanent civilian status. No military service. No experiments. In exchange, I'd live quietly and never reveal what I could do. He looked at the destroyed hall. I kept that promise for 6 years, until today. Why hide it from me? The question came out sharper than she intended. I'm your wife because everyone who knows what I am sees me differently. They see a weapon, a threat, a resource to exploit. Kyle met her gaze. You saw Kyle. Just Kyle. The man who couldn't figure out Brelenian customs. Who burned dinner trying to cook your traditional foods. Who was terrified to meet your father. You fought a Grelian honor guard during the courtship trials. Barehanded. They were pulling their punches. So was I. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Honestly, that was harder than today. Trying to win without revealing anything. Zalara stood, pacing through the debris, her ceremonial gown dragged through dust and ash. My uncle will learn what happened here within hours. When he does, he'll escalate. Good. Let him come himself. You don't understand Corthan politics. Zarthon won't fight you directly. He'll go after soft targets, civilian populations, my father's loyalists. He'll burn worlds to draw you out. Kyle's expression went cold. Then we don't wait for him. We go to him first. That's insane. His fortress is on Drax Prime, surrounded by 3 defensive fleets. Even you can't fight that many ships. Watch me, Kyle. Zalara grabbed his arm. Her touch was gentle despite her frustration. I didn't marry a murderer. Whatever you are, whatever you can do, I won't let you become a monster for me. He looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. The anger faded. Then what do you want me to do? I want you to help me think. Use that enhanced brain of yours for strategy, not just violence. Zalara pulled him to sit beside her on a broken bench. Tell me everything. What are your limits? What can you actually do? Kyle hesitated, then began listing capabilities. Enhanced strength approximately 500 times human baseline. Speed that approached supersonic in short bursts. Energy manipulation that could reshape matter at the molecular level. Accelerated healing. Enhanced cognition, allowing him to process information thousands of times faster than normal humans. Can you fly? Zalara asked. Sort of. More like controlled falling with style. Can you breathe in space? For about 20 minutes. Then it gets uncomfortable. Can others like you combine powers? Work together? Kyle paused. I don't know. Most of us avoid each other. Too much risk of conflict. When gods fight, mortals die. Poetic. Unhelpful. Zalara stood again, thinking. My father has allies. The Vrelnian Concord. The Terrestrial Union. If Exarthon is planning a coup, we need to warn them. Your uncle's soldiers already tried to frame humans for your assassination. Any message we send will be suspect. Not if we have proof. Kyle gestured at the unconscious Corthan soldiers. We have 20 witnesses who will claim coercion the moment they're questioned. We need evidence Zarthon can't deny. Zalara's eyes brightened. The soldiers' armor. Military-grade Corthan equipment has tracking systems. If we can access their mission logs, we can trace the payment, the orders, everything. I can interface with their systems, Kyle said. Give me 10 minutes with their command core. Not here. The Royal Guard will confiscate everything as evidence. We need to move fast. Zalara pulled out her communicator. I'm calling my ship. We leave within the hour. Leave to where? Drax Prime, you were right about one thing. We can't wait for Zarthon to strike again. She smiled, and it was sharp. Dangerous. But we're not going to fight him. We're going to expose him, ruin him politically before he can launch his coup. Kyle raised an eyebrow. You want to fight a war with politics? I'm a princess, Kyle. Politics is my superpower. She held out her hand. So what do you say? Can the man who breaks physics help a woman break a conspiracy? He took her hand and stood. Princess, you have no idea what you're asking for. Then show me. Zalara's ship, the Sovereign Light, broke atmosphere 90 minutes later with half the Royal Guard scrambling to follow. She'd left orders that bought them a head start. By the time her father discovered they'd departed, they'd already entered the slipstream toward Drax Prime. Kyle stood in the ship's cargo bay, hands deep in the exposed circuitry of a Corthan armor core. Purple energy crackled from his fingertips into the alien technology, bypassing security protocols that would take normal hackers weeks to crack. Got it, he said. Data streams flooded the display. Transaction records, communication logs, orders signed with Zarthon's personal encryption key. Zalara leaned over his shoulder, reading fast. This is perfect. He didn't even bother hiding it. Arrogant fool. Arrogance or confidence? Look at this. Kyle highlighted a section. Zarthon has 12 senators already backing him. Military commanders on 4 worlds. If he moves against your father, he's got support. Had support. Past tense. Zalara copied the files to an encrypted drive. The moment we broadcast this, those allies will scatter like sand. Nobody backs a failed coup. The ship shuddered as it transitioned to faster-than-light travel. Kyle steadied himself against the wall, but Zalara barely moved. She'd grown up on starships. How long until we reach Drax Prime? Kyle asked. 18 hours at maximum slip. Longer if we detour. She glanced at him. Are you having second thoughts? I'm having all the thoughts. Comes with the enhanced processing. Kyle pulled his hands from the armor core and it powered down. Zalara, what happens after we expose Zarthon? He's still got private armies, loyalists who won't abandon him. Then my father deals with them, legally, through proper channels. And if Zarthon decides legal doesn't matter anymore? If he comes after you directly, Zalara crossed her arms, then I have a husband who can stop plasma with his bare hands. I'll manage. Kyle didn't smile. You're scared of me now? I can see it. I'm not scared of you. I'm scared of what you represent. She moved closer, lowering her voice despite them being alone. Kyle, if humans have people like you, people with that kind of power, why aren't you ruling the galaxy? Why play diplomat and traitor when you could take anything you wanted? Because power doesn't equal right, and because most humans with abilities learn fast that ruling through fear just makes you a target. Kyle met her eyes. We police ourselves, strictly. Any enhanced human who goes conqueror gets put down by others like them. It's an ugly system, but it works. Have you ever had to do that? Put down one of your own? The silence stretched too long. Once, Kyle finally said. Detroit. 7 years ago, a pyrokinetic who decided burning neighborhoods was easier than getting a job. I was still with the program then. They sent me to stop him. Did you? He's in a containment facility now. Sedated. He'll never wake up. Kyle's voice went flat. I didn't want to go that far, but he'd killed 60 people. Would have killed more. Zalara touched his face gently, turning him to look at her. You're not a monster, Kyle. Monsters don't feel guilty. Monsters don't think they're monsters either. Stop. Her tone sharpened. I've met monsters. Real ones. Court assassins who smile while poisoning children. Warlords who glass planets for profit. You're not them. You're just powerful and trying to be good. That's harder. The ship's intercom chimed. The pilot's voice crackled through. Princess, we're receiving a priority transmission. Source is the Royal Palace. It's your father. Zalara straightened immediately. Put it through to the command deck. We're coming up. They climbed the ladder to the bridge. The view screen showed Emperor Vorn, Zalara's father, his forearms crossed in the traditional posture of imperial displeasure. His scaled face was unreadable, but his tail lashed behind him. Daughter, he said, explain why you fled the homeworld with evidence of treason and without royal escort. Father, I can explain everything, Zalara began. Can you explain why my security feeds show your human husband destroying an elite Korthan strike team with abilities that violate 17 treaties? Kyle stepped into view.
Your Majesty, I can address that.
Commander Brennan, or should I say Subject 17 of Earth's Enhanced Combatant Program. Vorn's eyes narrowed. Yes, I know who you are. What you are. Did you think Imperial intelligence was blind? Zalara's head whipped toward Kyle, then back to her father. You knew? I've known since he requested permission to court you. I had him investigated thoroughly. Vorn leaned forward. What I didn't know was whether he'd told you the truth. Clearly, he hadn't. With respect, Your Majesty, I was trying to protect her, Kyle said.
By lying?
By hiding what you were.
By being normal. By letting her choose me for me, not for what I could do for her politically.
Vorn was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. A deep, rumbling sound. You think I care about politics? Boy, I let you marry my daughter because you looked at her like she was the only thing in the universe that mattered. Because you were terrified of me and proposed anyway. The Emperor's expression softened slightly. The power was always secondary. Though I'll admit having a son-in-law who can stop assassins is convenient. Father, we have proof Zarthon ordered the attack, Zalara said, holding up the encrypted drive. Everything we need to bring formal charges. I know. I have the same proof. My people extracted it from the captured soldiers, Vorn sighed. Which creates a problem. What problem? Zarthon knows we know. He's already fled Drax Prime with his personal fleet. Current trajectory suggests he's heading for the contested zones. The Emperor's face hardened. He's going to start his war anyway, without politics. Just violence. Kyle and Zalara exchanged glances. How many ships does he have? Kyle asked. 47 capital vessels, maybe 300 support craft, and orbital weapons platforms still loyal to him. Vorn studied Kyle carefully. Tell me truthfully, Commander, can you stop a fleet? Kyle considered the question seriously. Not alone. Not without causing massive collateral damage. Destroying ships is easy. Stopping them without killing everyone aboard? That's harder. Then we have a crisis. Zarthon will target civilian worlds to draw out my forces. He'll burn populations to make his point. Unless we hit him first, Zalara said. Not with ships, with truth. We broadcast his treason across every channel, turn his own people against him. He's jamming communications in territories under his control. The message won't reach his crews. Kyle smiled slowly. What if we delivered it personally? The plan was insane. Zalara loved it anyway. You want to board Zarthon's flagship, Emperor Vorn said, his tone utterly flat, in the middle of his fleet, while it's actively preparing for war. Not just board it, Kyle corrected. Infiltrate it. Broadcast the evidence from his own command systems and let his crew mutiny for us. One human against an entire warship. One human who can phase through hull plating and override security with a touch. Kyle pulled up a schematic of Corthan Dreadnought-class vessels. I studied these during diplomatic training. Their communication cores are centralized here, beneath the bridge. I get in, upload the files, get out. 5 minutes total. And if you're detected, then I fight my way out. But I'd rather not. Vorn looked at his daughter. You approve of this madness? I approve of ending this without thousands of deaths, Zalara said firmly. Father, if we engage Zarthan's fleet directly, the battle will devastate border colonies, refugee crises, years of rebuilding. Kyle's way is surgical. Kyle's way assumes he's invincible. I'm not, Kyle said quietly, but I'm very, very hard to kill. And Zarthan doesn't know I'm coming. The Emperor drummed his claws on his throne's armrest, thinking. Finally, he nodded. You'll have support. I'm sending the 7th Fleet to intercept Zarthan at the Kepler Junction. They'll draw his attention while you make your approach. Vorn pointed at Kyle. But if this fails, if you're captured, I will deny any knowledge of this operation. Understood. And Kyle? Vorn's expression softened fractionally. Bring my daughter back safely, or being hard to kill won't save you from me. The transmission ended. Zalara immediately started plotting approach vectors on the navigation console. Kepler Junction is 4 hours away at maximum slip. We'll drop out of FTL behind the third moon, use its gravity well to mask our signature. How do I get from the moon to Zarthan's ship without a shuttle? Kyle asked. You jump. Zalara, that's vacuum, and about 40 kilometers of empty space. You said you could survive in space for 20 minutes. Can you hold your breath and use your energy manipulation to propel yourself? Kyle ran the calculations in his enhanced mind. Terminal velocity and vacuum, energy expenditure for momentum shifts, thermal regulation in extreme cold, oxygen consumption under stress. Theoretically, yes. I've never tried it. Wonderful. You can practice now. Zalara pointed to the airlock. We've got 4 hours. Start small. Airlock to cargo bay and back. Work your way up. For the next 3 hours, Kyle did exactly that. The first attempt nearly killed him. He pushed off too hard, slammed into the cargo bay wall with enough force to crack the reinforced plating. The second attempt he overcompensated, barely moving at all. By the 20th attempt, he'd found the rhythm. Controlled bursts of energy that let him maneuver like a human missile. Zalara watched from the observation window, occasionally calling corrections through the comm system. You're drifting left. Compensate. Kyle adjusted, spinning mid-void, to redirect his trajectory. The stars wheeled around him, beautiful and utterly lethal. No sound. No air. Just the pounding of his own heart and the burn in his lungs. He made it back to the airlock with 30 seconds of oxygen remaining. Better, Zalara said as he stumbled through the decompression chamber. But you need to be faster. Zarthan's point defense systems will track anything moving near his ship. Then I'll move faster than their targeting computers. Can you? Kyle grinned despite his exhaustion. Only one way to find out. They dropped out of FTL at Kepler Junction right on schedule. The 7th Fleet was already engaged. 24 Imperial warships trading fire with Zarthan's forces across a debris field that had once been mining stations. Zarthan's flagship, the Crimson Throne, sat in the center of his formation. 3 kilometers of armored death bristling with weapons. It made the Sovereign Light look like a toy. There, Zalara highlighted a section of the hull. Communications array is 30 meters below that access port. Can you reach it? Kyle studied the distance. 43 kilometers from their position to the flagship. Point defense turrets covering every angle. and he'd have to do it all while holding his breath. "Give me the data drive," he said. Zalara handed it over. The device was small, barely larger than a coin, encoded with every piece of evidence they'd gathered. Kyle tucked it into a sealed pocket in his suit. "When I'm inside, give me 2 minutes before broadcasting the distraction signal," he said. "I'll need time to find the core." 2 minutes! "Kyle!" She grabbed his hand. "Come back, always." He kissed her quickly, then headed for the airlock. The outer door opened. Space yawned before him, infinite and patient. Kyle gathered energy in his core, feeling it build like captured lightning. His skin began to glow purple, visible even through the suit. He crouched, calculated vectors one final time, and launched. The acceleration was brutal. In atmosphere, friction would have burned him alive. In vacuum, he was just a streak of light and will, crossing the distance in seconds. Point defense turrets swiveled, tracking too slow. Kyle was already past their firing solutions, adjusting his trajectory with microbursts of energy that would have looked like random debris to their sensors. 30 seconds. The flagship's hull rushed toward him. Kyle spread his hands, generating a counter-thrust field. He hit the hull at reduced speed, boots magnetizing to the metal surface. No alarms, no response. He'd made it. Now came the hard part. Kyle placed both hands on the hull and pushed energy through. Metal molecules separated, creating a passage just wide enough for his body. He slipped through into a maintenance corridor, resealing the hull behind him. Inside the ship, gravity pulled at him. Atmosphere hissed in his ears, and somewhere on this vessel Zarthon was planning to burn worlds. Not for long. Kyle moved deeper into the ship, silent as death. The communication core sat behind 6 security doors and 4 armed guards. Kyle bypassed all of it in 90 seconds. The guards never saw him. He moved through walls like they were suggestions, phasing through solid matter with controlled energy manipulation. The security systems registered nothing. To their sensors, he didn't exist. The core itself was a massive sphere of crystalline technology, pulsing with data streams from across Zarthan's fleet. Kyle pulled out the data drive and pressed it against the nearest interface port. Nothing happened. Wrong connection type. Of course, Kyle's enhanced mind raced through alternatives. He couldn't just plug it in. He'd have to become the connection. He placed one hand on the drive, the other on the core, and let energy flow through both. His consciousness expanded suddenly, frighteningly, into the ship's network. 1,000,000 data points flooded his awareness. Ship status, weapon systems, communications, crew locations, and Zarthon's voice broadcast on a secure channel to his captains. "The Emperor's fleet is weakening. Press the attack. Once we break their formation, we move on the colony worlds. Burn 3 cities. Make them watch. Make them beg." Kyle's jaw clenched. He pushed the evidence files into the network, routing them to every terminal, every display, every communication device on all 47 ships simultaneously. Alarms screamed. Throughout Zarthan's fleet, screens flickered to life, showing payment records, assassination orders, conspiracy details. His own words, his own signature, his own treachery laid bare for every crew member to see. The reaction was instantaneous. Confusion, outrage. On 3 ships, crew members immediately detained their captains. On others, arguments erupted on the bridge. Zarthon's voice cut through the chaos. "Ignore these lies. This is Imperial propaganda. All ships maintain formation," and Kyle rerouted the channel, cutting him off mid-sentence. Then footsteps thundered in the corridor outside. Someone had finally detected the intrusion. Kyle pulled his hand from the core and turned as the door exploded inward. 12 Korthan soldiers poured through, weapons raised. "Stand down," their commander barked. "You're surrounded." Kyle raised his hand slowly. "I don't want to hurt you. You've seen the evidence. Your Duke tried to murder Princess Zalara and blame humanity. He's been lying to all of you." "Silence. You're under arrest for—" The ship lurched violently. Something had hit them hard. Kyle's enhanced hearing caught the pilot's frantic voice over the intercom. "We're breaking formation. Multiple ships refusing orders. The 7th Fleet is pushing through our lines." The soldiers looked at each other, uncertainty replacing aggression. "Your choice," Kyle said calmly. "Arrest me and serve a traitor, or let me leave and serve the Empire. What's it going to be?" The commander's weapon wavered. Then slowly he lowered it. "Go, before I change my mind." Kyle nodded and ran, not through walls this time, but through corridors, following his mental map of the ship. Behind him, the sounds of combat erupted as crew members split into factions. The hangar bay was chaos, shuttles launching without clearance, officers shouting contradictory orders, and standing on the command platform, face twisted with rage, was Duke Zarthan himself. He saw Kyle immediately. "You," Zarthan snarled, "human filth. You've ruined everything." "You ruined everything when you tried to kill my wife," Kyle shot back. Zarthan drew a ceremonial blade, energy crackling along its edge. "Then I'll finish what my soldiers started." He charged with surprising speed for someone his size. The blade came down in a killing arc. Kyle caught it between his palms. The energy weapon screamed, trying to cut through flesh. It couldn't. Kyle's skin glowed purple, his power meeting Zarthan's technology in a contest of wills. "I could kill you," Kyle said quietly, easily. "But Zalara asked me not to become a monster, so instead I'm just going to break your toy." He twisted. The blade shattered into fragments. Zarthan stumbled back, staring at his broken weapon. "What are you?" "I'm the guy who married way above his pay grade." Kyle grabbed Zarthan by the collar and lifted him off his feet. "And you're under arrest." He carried the struggling Duke to an escape pod, sealed him inside, and launched it toward the 7th Fleet. Let the Emperor deal with his traitorous brother-in-law. Then Kyle ran for the hull, phased through, and jumped back into space. The return trip was harder. His oxygen was nearly gone, and energy reserves were depleting fast. But Zalara was waiting, the Sovereign Light's airlock open and ready. He crashed through the opening with seconds to spare, and the doors sealed behind him. Zalara pulled off his helmet as he gasped for air. Did it work? Kyle managed a thumbs up. Outside, Zarthan's fleet was surrendering, ship by ship. The conspiracy was over. 3 days later, they stood in the Imperial throne room while Emperor Vorn officially charged Zarthan with treason. The Duke said nothing, just glared at Kyle with pure hatred. Afterward, Zalara and Kyle walked through the palace gardens alone. "So," she said, taking his hand, "no more secrets? No more secrets. You know everything now." "Good, because I've been thinking." She smiled up at him. "If humanity has people like you, and you're willing to protect this empire, maybe we should make it official." "Official how?" "Ambassador Kyle Brennan, official liaison between Earth and the Vrelnian Empire, with full diplomatic immunity and authorization to use whatever methods necessary to maintain peace."
Kyle stopped walking.
"Zalara, are you offering me a job where I can be myself? I'm offering you a job where you can be a hero without hiding." She kissed him gently. "What do you say?" Kyle looked at the sky, at the stars beyond, at the future spreading out before them. "I say," he smiled.